All right, here we go, guys. And welcome back to TWiP. I am your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Joining me today to discuss some of the cool things happening in the world of photography this week, the guy behind the digital story and the nimble photographer, Mr. Derek Story. Hey, Derek.
Greetings, greetings. Good to be on the show again, Frederick. Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Nice to have you. Thanks for coming on. Also on the show,
You
Mr.
betcha.
J.M. Giordano. He's a prominent Baltimore, Maryland-based photojournalist and portrait photographer, and he does a whole bunch of other stuff that we will learn about as the show goes on. Joe, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me back, Frederick.
Yeah, always a pleasure having you guys on. We got a lot of stuff to dive into. Before we do that, before we dive into the show, I want to thank our first sponsor for this episode of This Week in Photo, and that's our good friends over at Animoto.com. All right, here we go. Let's dive into the story. Story number one. This is my favorite story. We were trying to get to this story last week on the show, but ran out of time. So we're doing it now through the wonders of the interwebs. Snapseed, a product owned by our friends at Google, have released a major update. I would argue one of their, I guess, the first major update, since this brings it up to version 2.0 of the software. This has been my de facto mobile image editing app since it was released. I just kind of standardized on this app and the photo app that's built into the iPhone, that comes with the iPhone. So with Snapseed 2.0, a couple of the top line features are a larger image view, highlight slider. It's got content aware fill in a mobile app. It's got perspective distortion. It's got stacks. Essentially, it's kind of like adjustment layers in Photoshop, where you can go back within the layer or within the stack of adjustments that you've done to an image and tweak individual adjustments or delete them. It's got all kinds of cool stuff in there. So it's kind of super powerful to be a mobile app. In the blog post for this episode, we'll link to a couple of videos. One in particular, our friend Scott Kelby did over on their network over there, and they did a really nice deep dive walkthrough of the software. So for you guys, Derek, I want to throw this to you first. You are, like I said at the intro, you're the nimble photographer. And I've seen your bag, and it is very nimble, and you've got an iPad in there. Is this app something that pushes the game forward? Is this your go-to app?
What?
Uh-oh. You still there, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, Snapseed 2.0 is something that I think is just a terrific update, and I think it was worth waiting for. It is my de facto. This is for image editing. I think this is the easiest to use. And I think the update on an iPad in particular, it's funny, I'm just looking at it on my iPhone right now just to see, because I hardly ever edit on the iPhone. And it's pretty good, but I like it even better on the iPad. And I think the stacks, which like a history, is pretty good stuff. And then just in general, the performance, the abilities, like you said, some of the tools on it are just crazy. So for me,
it's crazy for something that's mobile like this. I mean, because you think back in the day, when these apps were just kind of coming out, and we were happy to get, sort of Instagram-esque kind of power in our apps, and we were happy if we got maybe some vignetting or edge blur or something like that. Now it's almost like we have full-on real image editing power at our fingertips, right, Derek?
We do, and by the way, Instagram's pretty darn good these days too, with the latest update, whatever it is, 6.02.
Really good.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'll tell you, to your point, Frederick, it is. The thing is, of course, for most of us are working on JPEGs on our mobile devices. I don't think a lot of people work on RAWs. I know some people do, but generally speaking, not. So it's a different workflow. It's for quick turnaround. It's for publishing up on social. It's for showing friends on your iPad while you're on the. It's less stuff. The funny thing is,
Hello?
plane flying home that looked great, and then when I get back to the computer, working in Room or Aperture or Photoshop, emulating some of the cool stuff I did on my iPad, and I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, we're losing you a little bit, Derek. Looks like you might have some Comcastic upload issues going on over there, but because we lost a little bit of that last sentence. Now you said something about you were doing some edits on your computer and then replicated them on your iPad. Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah, and just in case I'm not answering your questions real well, I other word from you too. So,
Yeah. No.
um,
All right. Well,
we're
we'll
kind
we'll
uh,
press forward. We'll press forward. Joe, what about you? Looking at this thing like Snapseed and your workflow. So what we'll find out later in the show is you're a newspaper photographer, and like I said at the intro, there you are. I mean, you're a pro. I mean, you do this stuff. You're not just kind of
Right.
bouncing around. You're a photojournalist, and you're doing this stuff and putting food on the table. When you see an app like Snapseed, is it in apps like it, like Derek was saying, there's even Instagram is becoming more and more capable these days. Does this tool have a place in your box of things that you actually to use to do quote real work with?
No.
It is
No, and
still a toy to you,
no, that's
huh?
it. Thank you. I'm out of here. No, I really, I mean, I was a kind of an early adapter of Instagram and Hipstamatic.
Yep.
You still there, Frederick?
Yep. Still here. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I really got my internal actions down with Instagram. Like tonight, I was at a protest for a young man who was killed in police custody, and it was so heated and it was so loud and it was so actiony. I wouldn't have time really to do the things other than quickly on Instagram, how I want to do my contrast, and I just know where all my settings are, and it's just it took a really quick app. I would use it like Snapseed or something if I were on vacation, or I were like you're showing now, like a fashion photographer,
Yeah.
where I could take the time to really do a lot of this stuff. But like, okay, so if you go to the last screen where you had the directions. See, this is one thing that bugged me yesterday. I was in New York and we were on Ellis Island. I took a photograph of my wife, and I just had the camera. I had my iPhone a little bit tilted, and I wanted to rotate it, but it's still, all these apps only rotate like in halves. You can't, at least I don't know. I haven't. You can on Instagram. You certainly can on the iPhone camera, like just a little bit. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I mean, that's really the only thing I would, as a working photojournalist, would use it for. I wouldn't really have time to really go into the glamour glow, the lens blur, the tonal contrast, and all that good stuff. I would just lose too many photos.
Yeah, I mean, and for the type of work that you do is probably not the right tool. But I'm curious, like Derek, from someone like you, when you look at this, that same question to you: is this a tool now? Has it matured to the point where we can actually use it to do real work? And when I say real work, I mean, maybe even something client-facing that you'd be delivering and getting a check for.
I would take it right up to that point, but maybe not to client-facing. I would be nervous about that. But for my work, I mean, half of what I do is what I would call, social media type photography. And for everything in that category, yes, absolutely. But for clients, no, not yet. I don't know. I'm too nervous about client stuff.
But are both of you guys, this is just sort of open round table. I mean, are we getting to that point now? I mean, I even look at the numbers, the traffic numbers on This Week in Photo, and it has tipped the scale to mobile now. We know that Google tomorrow, as we record this, it's Monday. It's Monday, April, what is it, 20th. 420 here in California, and we know that tomorrow, the 21st, rumored that Google is pushing another update to the search engine that is going to start giving more weight to sites that are optimized for mobile devices. And like I was saying, looking at the TWiP audience, the TWiP traffic to the site, podcasts, etc., it's mostly mobile these days. It's crossed that point, right?
Yeah, I listen and go through TWiPs completely on my iPhone. Like I very rarely go to the website. I might check for news with you guys, but as far as the podcasts and the other podcast, it's all through my phone.
Right. So then that just when I look at that, then I look at this. I'm thinking like, okay, is the day here? And I really want to get both of your opinions on this. Is the day here where, or you guys said it's not, but is it approaching where we can just do everything on a mobile device? I mean, Apple is rumored to be releasing this giant version of the iPad, or a professional version of the iPad.
Right.
Will these kinds of tools come into their own when that thing gets here? Or are we waiting for something else, or is it just never?
Well, I think the progression is going to go mirrorless cameras and then mobile devices. My phone is still not fast enough for me to take. I mean, again today at this protest, you have people screaming and hands in the air, and as I'm using my phone, I'm missing every other expression. It's the shutter
Yeah, but
speed.
I'm not talking using your phone to shoot, because that's a whole
But
different.
you just mean for editing.
I mean, like even shooting with a mirrorless camera, your DSLR, and shooting the images over to your iPad, doing your edits, and then
that's the
sending them
next
out.
step,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Was that? You think it's there?
Oh yeah. It'll be there quickly. It'll be there quickly. I think that especially if you're working in the field and you don't have a laptop, and you use your Wi-Fi card to send it over to your iPad or your phone, do it up and send it to your editor. 10 minutes.
It's done. It's done. Yeah.
So
I know, Derek. One thing, if I can read the tea leaves of what Derek's story is going to say. Knowing Derek for several years now, Derek's going to say, yeah, it's great, it's almost there, but there's still the issue of color calibration, right, Derek?
well, there is that, definitely. So here's what I do, and this is so funny that all these years later, I'm still shooting RAW plus JPEG, which just makes me laugh. Because I thought I was going to get rid of it 50 times now over the last decade. And what I do is I shoot for the JPEGs, I shoot medium superfine, which is around 2,500 pixels. I shoot mirrorless for my event work. That goes into the iPad, that goes into Snapseed, that goes up right away, like you guys are saying, wherever it has to go. Yeah. But then when I get home, I take the card out, it goes in the computer, all the raw files go into my photo management application, and that's where I work on the masters, and that's where the finished product is. So as long as I can have both sides of it, I'm cool. I think it's great. If the question is, am I ready to give up the other side to go just to a mobile workflow, the answer would be no.
Huh. Okay, so we're not. It sounds like you have one toe in the water. Then it's your commitment issues, Derek. You're just you wanna edit a little bit, and then, I talked to some other photographers like Joseph Linaski and Julio Shorio, and they've adopted a full-on workflow where they deliver final images to the client that have been shot on a device, moved over to their mobile device, edited, and sent to the client. Why the crutch of RAW, Derek?
Well, because the crutch.
I'm trying to be controversial. Come on, man, give me a break.
This is called bit depth.
Bit depth. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
I only shoot JPEG 2000, so.
Yeah. Well, what Julio will tell you though, if you press him on that, he'll say that his client work is mainly for stuff online. In other words, right. He hasn't made a print in
print is the key.
50 years. My clients are doing both print and web work both, and the print delivery that's a whole nother thing. And
yeah. I mean, your work has been on billboards and everywhere else, right? Yeah. So you need that for that.
Yeah. How can the wedding people, or the people you just referred to, go from their cameras to their devices and then to the client? I mean, printing's the key. I mean, you can't print very big from these devices right now. I mean, and if you're a working photographer like Derek or myself, I mean, I need prints. I need prints for shows. I need prints for clients.
True. So, yeah, totally.
I guess
totally.
And that like handling raw files, I guess it's not there yet. I mean, it's more of a space thing, right? It's more of a
totally. But I wonder where, because right now it feels like, Derek, and I think you would agree with this, even when you put on your nimble photographer hat, that we make a lot of compromises, or a fair amount of compromises, less than we did before, but we make a good number of compromises when we are shooting and using the iPad to do our edits and all that, which is probably why you still have that raw component in your workflow. I wonder when that is going to go away, that resistance, that's okay, I'm compromising, but I'll do it anyway. When's that going to go away and it becomes like the de facto because there are no compromises?
I mean, I think that's an individual question, though. I mean, you're kind of talking as a group, like, when does that 100th monkey, kind of tip us over, right?
Right.
And I'm not sure if that'll ever happen, because until like all the guys like me, die,
Could you get a little bit more morbid, Derek? I think you weren't pushing it enough. Like when me and all my friends kick, then things will start changing.
But, it's funny because I was just thinking this the other day. I just did a big shoot on Friday, a client shoot, and shot it in RAW with a 5D Mark II and big lens, all that stuff. And I was recovering some highlights and opening up some shadows a bit, and I just noticed that how smoothly those shadows opened up as I was moving the slider and all that with the RAW files. You do the same thing with a JPEG, even in something wonderful like Snapseed on thing, and it's just like it goes in chunks. You know what I mean? You don't get that beautiful control, and I think that control, that ability to get the image exactly the way you want, that's hard to give up for people who've had it. Maybe the key is people who haven't experienced that. That might be a different story.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, all these tools keep coming on, right? I mean, we're getting better and better cameras almost every month. We get cool software tools like this that are evolving and morphing and changing, and we're getting more important, even different tools. We're getting this Apple Watch and better tablets, and Android, and all this stuff is coming. It just makes me wonder where are things going to go in like a year or so from now. Joe, what do you think? Like, put on your crystal ball.
Out of control. It's gonna be out of control, man. I can't keep up with all this stuff. I just want to take photographs. I just want good pictures. No, I will say, I looked at the Sony and the Olympus. I'm liking the mirrorless is getting there. I think in the next year, these big dinosaurs, these D7000s and DXs and all this stuff, they're going to be obsolete. They're just going to be. They are.
Oh, you are inviting the torches and pitchforks to come out now, man. I'm telling you. Don't be calling for the end of the DSLR. The monster hunters will come.
No, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I have discussions with photographer friends of mine that we're really surprised that we're still using these, like anything, phones, cars, everything else is smaller and faster, and we're still using these like dinosaur clunky big cameras,
Yeah.
And I think mirrorless is what broke it. I think that's going to be. I love the work from Sony and Olympus. It just looks great.
Yeah.
It looks great, and I think that's going to be next, and it's going to be kind of a dovetail with apps like this and cameras like that you're going to see some really good stuff.
You know what I wonder? Both of you guys. What I wonder is, so when Google acquired Nick and Snapseed and all those assets, we saw them incorporate a lot of the features, even the look and feel and the UI, UX of some of these apps went into the online version of Google Plus Photos, so you can now use those. I wonder if these enhancements, will we see those, Derek? You think we'll see these migrate their way into Google Plus Photos?
I would think so, yes. Yeah. And there's a reason why Google bought Nick, and because Nick engineers are really good at this stuff, and I think that we are going to see them. I'm happy that the migration started on my iOS device and is moving the other way, because that's the area I love to work on, the devices. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff. I mean, it's interesting, and it makes me want to play even more with just sort of editing. And Derek, you inspired me, like a year or so ago, around when you started Nimble Photographer, just to sort of do that mind shift into going mobile only. I mean, I'm shooting mirrorless as it is, and I have a
Yeah,
tablet.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
why not just make your workflow and make it work out of a little knapsack, right?
Well, you know, the
I
the
like you, Derek.
happiest, huh? Yeah,
I like you.
yeah.
I have one bag and 4 lenses in one body.
There you go. That's all you need these days. That's
My
all.
happiest my happiest weeks are when I just have my little knapsack, my iPad Mini, maybe the EM5 Mark II, 3 lenses, and that's all I have to take. And I mean that is a great week. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Contrast that with the Derek Story standard kit of 15 years ago. What would have been in
Oh,
your bag? And
oh,
in
Uh,
2000, what was in your bag, Derek?
yeah. No.
He's like, let's not go back there. 2000
No,
was a
sorry.
dark time.
I guess still have the war injury.
Yeah, yeah, totally. The compressed discs to prove it. All right, guys, I want to move on to this next story. Before we do that, I want to thank another sponsor of this episode of This Week in Photo, and that's our good friends over at lynda.com. All right, story number 2. Lensbaby has announced a new manual focus lens, and it's called the Velvet 56. And according to their press release, the Velvet 56 Classic Portrait Lens gives you a velvety, that's the first time I've used that word in a while, a velvety, ethereal start to a smooth, ethereal start with a smooth finish from the big picture to the smallest detail, bringing modern-day simplicity to the carefully crafted build and look of a mid-20th century portrait lens. This 56mm f1.6 manual portrait and macro lens evokes an experience like no other. Wow, that is marketing speak right there. Embrace the moment as you easily go from capturing gorgeous, radiant environments to intimate details in the same scene. Now, Derek, when I saw this, first of all, when I think Lensbaby, I used to think the little cheap, not cheap, but inexpensive kind of plasticky, you put it on your camera and, you take a few photos and then you probably won't use it that much after. However, when I looked at this thing, when I looked at this lens, this looks like a real lens. I mean, I haven't held one, but looking at it, it looks substantial and robust. What do you think?
Yeah, it's priced like a real lens too. It's what about it's
Yeah.
about $450 or something like that,
Yep.
which is kind of different for us to spend that much money on a Lensbaby product. I think it looks neat. The thing is, for me anyway, and I think this is probably the question you're going to ask. Uh, do you want to have a lens on there that is just producing this effect naturally and have that in the moment experience, or
Mhm.
are you case shooting with your regular 50 and then choosing
Putting
to
Vaseline over the lens, right?
yeah or breathe on it or you know you know
Oh,
I mean I don't know. I mean, Joe, what do you think? I mean,
I it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. Um, it's not my kind of lens I would ever use, and I don't know you know if it's going to get old. I mean, it's for a certain type of photography that you can achieve the same effect in post production. I guess if that's an issue for you, then get it. But to have this like softy kind of Lucille Ball filter, I say that because she had such a bad skin condition. They always use a soft filter for her. She insisted on it.
Oh, I didn't know
It's
that.
amazing. But it's yeah, I just it's one of those things where it just looks like that picture just drives me nuts.
Yeah, yeah, and
A
that's what
little
I
kid.
wonder. I
It's just
wonder what does this mean? Like, if you buy this lens, like the other thing that I think of, Derek, that you sort of hinted at is when I look at these, I'm like, wow, that's a great shot. But what if you want to do something else with those pixels, right? Like you got that shot, you're like, okay, this looks
right.
good with the soft
Well, we're
focus.
back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we're back to my raw plus JPEG thing because a lot of cameras, and especially the ones I shoot with, Fujifilm, Olympus, so forth, they have these effects built into the camera. Shoot raw plus JPEG, you get the clean raw because you got a great lens on there, your prime optic, and
right.
then your JPEG has the effect, whatever effect, your Lensbaby effect. But I'm with you. If I get a great shot that I want to do something with, I don't want to be locked into, just this kind of look. I might as well shoot film then. if I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, this is a lens that I think, people in fashion or wedding would definitely use. I mean, if that's the effect they were going for. But if with it being a fixed lens, if you're going for action in a wedding, you're gonna I have to hurry up and take, or else all your pictures are gonna have that glow to it. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be on a second camera, don't you think, Joe? Let's have a second body where you just pull it up for certain shots, maybe.
Yeah, I have one body that I use, and so I'm so quick with like moving my lenses. I shoot all prime even in news situations. But no, I mean, it's for a certain type of photographer. It's nothing I would ever buy.
I don't know.
I
might get one. I mean, yeah, it's expensive. Maybe I'll rent one. Maybe I'll rent one from Borrow Lens.
For every photo you take like that, though, it's going to get old, right?
I know. I mean, but if I was going out on a, it would have to be like, this is what I said. I think when we did another Lensbaby review, if I was going out on a Lensbaby adventure, and I knew that everything I shot that day I wanted specifically to have that look, then I would do that.
But how many photos do you want to look? I mean, I can't imagine it unless you're shooting like portraiture and fashion, or you have a spread, or you have bridal or boudoir photos. If you were just to take it out for the day, really? Like you'd want every single photo. You live in San Francisco. You've got fog. You don't need a soft focus lens.
Well, then that's what I was saying before. Would you do this? Like, would you guys use this lens? And I'm getting a sense of what the answer is. But would you use this lens, or is it better to do things in post-production? Can you replicate the optics, what this lens is delivering to you in post, or would you want to, or would you just use different lenses?
You know what? I'd be interested to see a test between someone that uses this Lensbaby lens and someone that does it in Photoshop or Lightroom or however you process your photos, and see if you can tell them apart. Because I don't think you'll be able to, and I mean maybe in a print you might because of the sharpness of the lens. I mean, how good is the glass? What kind of lens? Like minus the special effect. What kind of lens are we talking about?
Yeah, I'll have to look at the specs. I'm looking at the page now, but I don't have one yet. But they have an image gallery, and the images look great.
I saw the baby and the flower and the soft eyeball.
Come on, Joe. You want all your images of Baltimore to have a velvety glow on them. Come on.
You're right. I have to temper the grit.
I know. That gritty, sort of tough Baltimore needs some velvety glow, man. Come on. I love it. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting that, I applaud Lensbaby for still innovating and making new stuff for us to experiment with. But yeah, $500 is a little bit steep. Oh, actually, $600 for the silver version.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit steep for me.
I'm holding out for the Lensbaby prism lens so I can have prisms, like in the '60s. I want all my photos to have multiple prisms.
Oh, there you go. There's medication that you could just take that will do that for you.
So I went back when I had a magazine shoot for fashion, and I went and bought a star filter lens, like a '70s old school star filter.
Wow.
And used it, and it was amazing. I love I collect '70s photo books, like how-to books.
Yeah.
Because the filters they would put out, those Koken filters, were just. Derek, you're a little young. You might not remember these.
Oh, I love you, Joe, man. You're.
Now he's awake. You woke him up.
Yeah. I want Joe on the show every week.
Yes. Yes.
We'll see, Joe. You missed the target. You're supposed to be buttering me up, not Derek. Come on.
I already buttered you up in pre-recording, man. Come on.
I love it, man. So I guess
if I had a French accent, I'd be on every week. So.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Because Valerie has that cool accent. So I guess the bottom line for the Lensbaby is it's a niche lens. That's Lensbaby's niche, is being niche, right? It's a niche lens. It's a sometimes lens. If you like that kind of look and you want it, in a purpose-built lens, and you got an extra, $500 to $600 laying around, then go get it. Otherwise, hopefully, our friends at Borrow Lenses or Lens Rentals will get these in, and we can play with it before, making.
And I bet every one of your photos is going to look exactly the same.
You're just a hater, man. See,
I'm not a hater.
it's that Baltimore grit, man. Come on.
Well, it's interesting. It's because I worry about going away from the image and going into and making it just about processing and effects and things like that. I worry as a photojournalist that, I mean, you saw with the world photography thing, 23% of those women guys, were disqualified for digital manipulation, effects, and things like that. And I worry that little things like these Lensbabies and the apps and things are taking it away from why people get into photography in the first place. And that's just to get a great image. If you have to do all this work on an image, maybe you don't have such a great image.
That's true. Well, here, that brings up a good point. So in a contest like that, say that any post-processing is strictly prohibited, could you enter that contest with this lens?
Sure.
And because you're not manipulating, you're just,
No, it's not even a filter. It's baked in, right? So yeah. I'd imagine that would be within the guidelines of AP or would they accept it? Probably not. I mean, I can't imagine. Maybe for portraiture, something along those lines. Yeah. But I can't imagine it would.
Derek, is that ethical, do you think, to enter a photo into a contest that has strictly prohibited post-processing, and you use your Lensbaby lens to get around that?
You asking me or Derek? I'm sorry.
Derek's story. If you can
I'm
hear me.
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. You just came back in. What did you say, Frederick?
So you think it's sort of disingenuous to be using a lens like this in a contest or something like that has strictly prohibited post-processing? Can you use this lens to get around that?
Well, you're not getting around it. You're because it's baked in, as Joe's saying. So I mean, that part's cool. Now, are you in? Probably not.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you shoot this kind of stuff, if this is your thing, then it would be a great lens because that's what you're doing. You go, this is what I shoot. I shoot engagement photos, let's say, and this is my look, and people like that look, and people do like that look. We're being a little rough on it, and then that would be cool. But you're not going to probably enter it in too many contests or anything. It's its own thing. It's a specialty item. My quibble is I don't have $600 to spend on a specialty item.
Right.
For $600 you can get a really good regular lens. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, and I shoot micro four thirds, and I can get razors for $600.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Definitely. Like I said, if you've got $600, laying between the couch cushions, you might as well scrape it up.
Yeah, I'm coming to your house.
Yeah.
Can I clean your house, Frederick?
Every day, man, I leave a couple $100 on the couch. I don't know why.
Nice.
All right, guys. So story number 3 is about this new free online photo editor called Polarr, P-O-L-A-R-R. They're the latest entrant into the online photo editing space. Now, they've been around since the fall, but in late March, they released an alpha version 2.0 with some new features, including RAW and JPEG support, full preservation of the editing history. You can choose from a instant line of looks, like some other apps we know. Plus, they've got different import-export capabilities like Dropbox, Evernote, Flickr, Facebook, Picasa, OneDrive, Box, and Google Drive. Now, a couple flags on that. So I haven't played with the system yet. I've got it up. I'm going to pull it up while we're talking about it. But they use phrases like the world's best and the world's most advanced when they're describing their own product, and I'm always, that always perks up an ear when I read stuff like that, because that's kind of like, you're talking to somebody at a party and they say, yeah, I'm the best looking person at this party.
It's also if you walk by a donut shop and it says world's best coffee, chances are it's not world's best coffee.
Don't go there. Yeah, don't go there. I don't know. But that said, I wanted to, I know you guys have taken a look at this app, and Joe, when you first from your perspective, again, photojournalist, you're running around the city all day, creating stories and capturing things. An online editor like this that works in the cloud. You got to be plugged in to use it. Even if it supports RAW and all that, could it find its way into your workflow? I mean, does it fill a hole, or is it a disease looking for, or a cure looking for a disease?
No, I mean, I think I don't know. I'd have to really play around with it. I think in theory it's a great idea. Like in my office we use Slack. You guys ever use Slack?
We're actually going to start using Slack for TWiP. Yeah.
Totally endorse it. So everything's going online, and I would like not to have to open Photoshop, and just do my stuff online, put it right to the cloud. So yeah, I wouldn't use it in the field, but I mean, I would definitely give it a shot if I, had to use it on my desktop at work.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm still on the fence. I mean, when I think about these cloud-based applications, they look powerful. Like looking at this one, I mean, it's got everything. I mean, I'm even dragging around a curve in here. It's great. It looks very like an advanced version of Lightroom in here. It's very cool.
Right.
But then I think about it, I'm like, okay, what happens when I'm not plugged in? What do I do? Even if they have kind of an offline mode, I get nervous about, okay, I'm on a plane. I've got 3 hours of downtime before I land in New York. I want to edit these 4 images. Oh, I can't edit them. I think about that. I don't know, Derek. Go ahead.
How fast? I mean, that's a good point. Like, I see it's dependent on your Wi-Fi, right? I mean, if it's like a slow connection, and you're going to be like grinding away at one photo for an hour or something.
On the back end, I'm not exactly sure how it's working on the back end, but I'm sure it's downloading all the bits it needs to run its code to the browser and the image locally. But to log in, you're going to need bandwidth. You're gonna need data to connect to the thing. So,
right.
I don't know, Derek. What do you think? Is this a nimble photographer tool?
Well, I mean, it would have to pass the Marriott hotel test or any hotel with terrible Wi-Fi because, I mean, I spend a lot of time in hotels with the worst Wi-Fi in the world, and it would have to work in those situations. I have like Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C to get my assignments uploaded when I'm on the road because Plan A, hotel Wi-Fi, usually doesn't pan out. So, I mean, it makes me nervous that way, but I love the interface. I think the interface looks really hot.
It's slick. It's very slick.
Yeah, I do. I like it a lot. I'll tell you, Frederick, I want to believe in cloud. I do. It's just when I'm working and the cloud lets me down, it is such a buzzkill. It really not good.
Yeah, I don't work in the cloud at all. My wife is an archivist and she's all into hard, even like JPEG. Having some kind of file physically. I'm just paranoid of like it getting hacked into, and I mean I need to know my photos are nearby.
Yeah.
I can't. I haven't gone to the new Photoshop either. I work strictly on the desktop with my backup drives and my hard drive. I agree. I'm wondering, did you plan this, Frederick? You have all this cutting edge shit. Like, we'll get the 2 curmudgeon guys to get on there and pitch all of it.
Hey, come on. You need sparks to have a fire. Come on.
Yeah, I'm with Derek. I'm not a cloud guy yet. I'm not sold on it.
But I wonder, I mean, and I agree, but I can see the vector, just like with mobile-based editing tools. You can see the direction things are heading in, and 3 years down the line, 2 years down the line, I think it's going to be a very different conversation with all the tools we have out there. But I wonder with this cloud-based editing stuff, is it... Like, where does it fit in? Is it a fad? Does it fit in there? Like, is this going to come and go?
None of this.
Or is it evolution? This is where desktop applications will eventually end up mobile and in the cloud, and native desktop apps are going to be like, like you call the DSLR, Joe, the dinosaurs. Or is it just another tool that we're going to add to our belt and use it as needed?
No, I think we're migrating definitely to a cloud. I mean, when Photoshop went to the cloud, that's pretty much the death knell. I mean, long term. Meanwhile, Derek and I will be out at Yellowstone with our 8x10 cameras. Like doing.
Well, Derek, according to Derek, he's going to be pushing the daisies by then, right?
So, it is the way. It is the future. I mean, the cloud is definitely the future. I'm just not convinced that it's impenetrable to hackers and things like that yet. I just haven't seen it. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Derek, you want to say something?
yeah, I mean, there's fully cloud-based, and then there's, let's say hybrid cloud-based, and I mean, Adobe's doing a pretty good job with Creative Cloud. The apps actually lives on your hard drive, and then it gets updated via the cloud, and you can connect if you want to do your cloud storage and all that. So that works out. That works out pretty well. I think the thing about this app and apps like it is how where is that line? How much cloud do you need to get your work done?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like you said, Frederick, a hybrid model where if I don't have connectivity, I can still get my work done, and then when I do have connectivity, I can either upload it or get an update or whatever. So it has to be smart. I mean, we have to take into account that connectivity in the United States is spotty at best.
right.
Spotty at, and we can't. Those of us that are
Speaking of spotty connectivity, Derek, you're breaking up.
Yeah.
I also wonder, Frederick, what would happen with laws? Because I'm fascinated by photo law and law enforcement. I mean, so right now the police can confiscate your hard drive, right?
Yeah.
If there's no hard drive, can they subpoena your cloud files?
Yeah.
So I mean,
in the case of the NSA, you're probably already backed up to their server somewhere.
Well, exactly. I mean, but seriously, if you get sued by someone, and does the prosecution have a right to subpoena your cloud files? That is
a good question, and I think we should definitely ask some lawyer types that question. I know that they can go so far, but I'm not sure how far they can go. Like, for example, if you're a suspected sex offender or something, and they have probable cause that you have illegal contraband of images on your Dropbox, can they compel you to let you go into their Dropbox, or compel the Dropbox Corporation to open your account to them? I don't know.
Because they have to fight Google. A lot of times Google won't give up information like that. So any lawyers listening to the show, cloud law, there's the future. The future is in cloud law.
I know. But I think this whole cloud stuff, why it makes me nervous, and maybe I'm just a product of the decade that I was born in, but I think, like, what makes me nervous is I'm a high-tech guy. Like, my house is wired. I mean, there's Nests in here, and remote control power outlets for my iPhone, and all this stuff going on in here. And I even consume most of my entertainment through the cloud, right, with Netflix and HBO Go and Hulu and all this stuff. But what happens is I have a single point of failure to my entire house, and that's Comcast. So when Comcast, which is my local cable provider, Xfinity, when they go down for whatever reasons, or the speed drops or whatever, my entire world is affected. I work on the internet. Like, even doing shows like this, I can't do them. So I worry about my dependency on cloud stuff. And when we think about, okay, now you want to move your, at least if my internet connection goes down, I could go sit in the corner with my laptop and boot up Lightroom or Photoshop and play around. If I move that to the cloud, that's gone.
Right.
So I don't know.
And especially, if you're, and a lot of, we're thinking, people that travel to, travel photographers that take tours and things. But I mean, photojournalists in the field in the middle of Iraq, how can you access how can you work on your photos if everything is cloud-based? I mean, you saw that great photo that won the World Press Photo, I think, last year, of all the people on the beach in Mali where they're trying to get the signal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine working as someone who's on a deadline for AP, trying to get into your cloud, and you just can't connect to it because your Wi-Fi is just slow enough that it's not letting you do it.
Right.
So that's why I'm still a big fan of Earth-based things.
Yeah, yeah. So, Derek Story, what do you think about the what's a better way to phrase this? Why would someone want to move to the cloud? Is it purely for, like, being able to have the latest and greatest software, so whenever the developers want to update it, they just update the server version, and the next people to log in, they get that? Is that the main plus of going to the cloud? I'm still trying to understand why I'd want to do that.
Well, that is a reason. I think another reason is it allows your devices to be smaller. You know,
Mm,
so suddenly, if you're a cloud-based photographer, then you don't need a big computer anymore. You can use a tablet device as long as you have enough screen resolution to do what you want. You don't have to worry about local storage. You don't have to worry about backing up. So it really does lighten the load. It's very convenient, and you know when it works, it's fantastic.
yeah.
So there are definitely pluses to it. I mean, if you have to bring hardware with you everywhere for all of your work, you're going to carry more stuff, and cloud lightens the load. Perfect example is my music library. It's all Apple has it all,
Yeah.
and then so I don't have to get that frees up all that space on my iPhone to do other stuff. I don't have to have all my music on there.
It reminds me, though, I mean, history repeats itself. You guys remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, maybe 5, 10 years ago, but it was Larry Ellison and Oracle. Remember, he started that initiative called the Network Computer, and their tagline was, "The network is the computer," with the idea that you'd have this dumb box that all of the smarts are in the cloud. We didn't call it the cloud back then, but all the smarts are online. Therefore, they could sell these boxes for cheap, and you'd always have the latest and greatest software because you're pulling down the bits as they become available. Are we moving back to that? I mean, is it time for that idea to hit?
Well, I mean, they've wanted to do that forever. I mean, paperless office, network as a computer. All this has been around forever.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to bandwidth. And that has been the bottleneck for us, and we still don't have it. I mean, right now this show is a perfect example of what cloud-based dependency can do to you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, but I wonder, because I still, and I've said this on the show before, like the single point of failure mess with me having to rely on one pipe, and that's Xfinity for all my data needs. I feel like I'm in a hostage situation. I have no backup. We talk about backup all the time on the show. You have backup cameras. You don't go to a job without more than one body. But when at home, I got one pipe coming into my house. If I lose it, all bets are off.
Because it's a monopoly.
Yeah.
Essentially a monopoly.
Yeah.
We use Verizon in it at home. It's okay. I mean, it's not great. I cut the cord. I'm Apple TV, completely cable free.
Yeah.
And Verizon works just as fast. I can pull up photos pretty quickly when I need them, comparatively to Comcast. But these are monopolies, man, and they're the ones that are going to really. I mean, this is a whole other conversation about how they control your speed. I mean, what if they start having like speed packages, which I'm surprised they haven't done yet.
Well, yeah, that's a whole net neutrality law, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. We're getting into territory that makes my head just go. I just want to crawl back into my Fuji canister.
Yeah, makes a man want to shoot film again. I tell you.
Yeah, did you read the BBC piece on the return of film over the weekend?
No, but Doug Kay did a piece on all about the gear. He's moving. Well, he's not moving back to film. He did a couple-week hiatus from digital and went to Leica and seemed to enjoy it. So, there's something.
I just don't have the money. I'd love to be able to do film, but I don't. I mean, like today, I went to 2 separate protests for the paper to put up on a gallery online. There's absolutely no way without running to Walmart and getting done in an hour and then scanning them in.
Yeah,
it's not practical.
For that kind of expediency, it'd be kind of like going from being able to email and text message back to the Pony Express for a while.
Exactly. I mean, it's a fun hobby, but it's not practical.
Right. Yeah. With today's the requirements and expectations of expediency and sharing and all that stuff have progressed to a level today that doing it the old way of here's a contact sheet and a grease pencil, pick the shots you want, and I'll print them and have them to you in 3 weeks. Those are gone. Those days are gone forever, I think.
Frederick, back to an earlier point that you made, though, I thought it was a good one, which is, I think where cloud fits in is where you can fit it in. That is practical. I mean, if you listen to Joe and what his workflow is, and then yours is a little different,
Yeah.
and mine is a little different than both of yours. So each of us have a different place where we can fit cloud in, and I think that's the way it's going to work. And I think the key is finding out, how much of it you can use without putting your hobby or your freelance business or your job at risk, and then just keeping an eye on it, like we do every week, and see what changes and what gets better. But the all or nothing thing, that's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. That is the problem. It's cool though. I mean, like I say all the time, that's what makes this hobby slash profession slash industry so exciting, is that all these different variables keep shifting, and when one shifts, it affects everything else. Like the whole mirrorless thing, the drones, all this stuff keeps coming, and it shifts the way that we perceive our business and the things that we can do and offer to our clients. So, fun stuff. All right, guys. Before we move on to the listener Q&A, I want to thank another one of our sponsors for this episode of This Week in Photo. That's our good friends at FreshBooks.com. All right, let's jump into the listener Q&A, and this is where you guys get to answer a question from one of our listeners. This week's question is from Ron Stevenson. He says, I just purchased a Sony 55-inch 4K TV, and I'd appreciate any feedback regarding using it as a monitor for my new Mac Mini when editing in Photoshop, iMovie, etc. It appears the TV will accept HDMI at a resolution of 3840 by 2160 at 30 hertz. Derek Story, this seems like a dream, man. Why not go out and buy this? I looked at this TV, the Sony 55, and it's around $1,500. So why not get a little cheap Mac Mini and plug it into this gigantic 4K 55-inch Sony, get yourself a keyboard and a mouse, and rock it?
That's a good question. I mean, I haven't done it.
Aside from sitting like this and doing your work,
I mean, I would wonder about the calibration.
Yes.
Probably that would be the thing. I mean, I'm guessing through HDMI, the resolution would be pretty good. It should be pretty. I don't.
It
might take a little.
Well, I mean, it should work, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would try it now. Now he's talking about editing, right?
Yeah.
Now for presentation. I love, I don't use my projector nearly as much anymore. You can use these through HDMI. You can use the LCD TVs and so forth, and it's pretty awesome, and it looks good.
Yeah, you just plug it in. Make sure you have the appropriate HDMI cable and rock it.
Right? Yeah, it's really nice, and they don't throw off a lot of heat, and it's good. For editing, of course, we're talking about another layer of precision. It's would have to do some investigation there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Joe, I want to get your opinion on this too, but let me read what Apple says about this. So apparently it's fine for him to do it. To answer your question, Ron, yes, you can do it. Apple says the HDMI support up to 1080p on HDMI connections. With the HDMI to DVI adapter, the HDMI port will work with resolutions up to 1920 by 1200. Now, the Mac Pro, late 2013, the MacBook Pro, the Retina, late 2013 and later, the iMac, 27-inch, late 2013 and later, and the Mac Mini, late 2014, also support 4K displays. So you can plug it in, but it doesn't say at what resolution that 4K display is supported at. It says it supports 4K displays.
I feel like I'm in math class right now. I can't get it.
You're like, numbers, stop it.
4K, I don't know, Professor Johnson. I don't know the answer. I didn't study. I don't know.
Okay, Joe, the K stands for 1,000. Yeah. Just so
I thought it was for black. Oh
yeah, they could be black or 1,000. Yeah, CMY K.
Yeah.
Right there. I don't know, Joe. What do you think? I mean, like your workflow. First of all, what's your workstation at home? What are you using to do your daily work?
You don't know what my workstation at home is. My workstation at my office is quite nice. It's a huge iMac 17, no 20. It's a big one. It's a nice piece of glass. I still have my old white one in 2009 at home. So.
Yeah. I work on an iMac too. I love it. I'm happy with it.
Because I'm in here from 6:30 in the morning till literally now. So I use this for everything with my personal backup drive, so I keep stuff separate. But I like to be pretty intimate with my photos, and I think that's a little big for me.
Yeah.
I like to be really close to the work. I like to. I don't need to see it billboard size on a plasma TV in front of me.
Yeah.
Because it feels like I'd lose control. It's like a big wave.
Yeah.
You know, I prefer, you know, like this size, maybe a little bigger is perfect for photojournalism. For fashion work, you know, you want to probably get as big as you can.
Yeah.
To work on eyelashes or something. You know,
like Derek would say, there's still that color calibration issue because this display still needs to be calibrated. If you're doing that kind of precision work, you need to calibrate the thing if you're gonna do anything at that level.
Yeah, and I mean that's, you know, that's more on your guys' side. You know, I like my semi-small screens where I can work pretty intimately and personally with the photos.
Well, I can say definitively that it will work plugged in. I have a small Sony TV. I think it's like 37-inch or something behind me that I picked up for next to nothing at Best Buy. It's an awesome TV. But plugged into that TV in one HDMI port is an Apple TV. So while I'm working in my office, I can have YouTube videos in the background. But in another HDMI port is my Mac Mini. Right. Which all my Drobos and such are connected to. Right. So I can switch between the sources depending on what I want to do, and that was the right solution for that. I didn't want to put a Apple display over there or anything else. A little cheap TV with HDMI imports is perfect. Now he's trying to do 4K with a 55-inch, so his will likely take up the entire wall behind me, but still,
well, that's what I mean. That just seems just seems too big. I don't know why. You know, unless you were a supervillain, that you would need to see it that big.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. Well, Ron, I hope that answers your question. I would say give it a try. $1,500.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, send the TV back.
We did have a question on Facebook.
Oh yeah, go for it.
This would be interesting. This gentleman wants to know if we have any wild speculation about the Lightroom 6 announcement. So I thought
I know who that is. Aaron Hockley. I have some speculation. We don't comment on unreleased products or services.
Right.
So TWiP is not a rumor show. TWiP is a let's talk about it after it's released type show.
It'd be good to make a guess and then compare it to what actually happens.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to guess. You know why I can't guess? Because I may or may not know about some things that may or may not be coming. So I'm not going to talk about it at all. Okay. And I know Derek ain't talking. So look at him. Derek's not even parting his lips to say anything. No, we don't know a thing, Aaron Hockley. Thanks for trying to get us in trouble, though. It's cool. All right. Let's move on with this. Let's see. Okay, cool. It's time for the pick of the week. So, folks, before we get to the pick of the week, if you want to get a question into us, you can ask it like our good friend Aaron Hockley did on Facebook. You can join our Facebook group. You can ask us on Twitter, or you can submit it on the This Week in Photo site. There's a submit a question link in the menu bar. You can send it to us as text or as a voice message, and we will listen to it and perhaps even play it on the show. So join in the fun. So let's do this pick of the week segment. Remember, you guys can recommend anything you want to the TWiP Army as long as it is somehow related to photography. Joe, I'm gonna let you go first. What is your pick of the week?
I'm as you know from last episode, I'm a very book-based guy. I do a lot of reading on photo theory, photo essay, things like that. Not so much on the technical side. But I have a fantastic collection. It's a 3-volume set called The History of the Photo Book. And it's great for if you're looking for design inspirations for your photo book. I'll hold up. I brought one copy. So this is what it looks like. It's put together by Martin Parr.
Oh wow, it looks beautiful.
And Gary Badger, yeah, and it's just great. Like it's a private collection of photo books throughout the history of the photo book, and it's just it's wonderful. Like I'm putting together a book right now with a designer, and we're using that as a guide. There's 3 volumes, so the third one's out. They're a little pricey, but if you're gonna spend $500 on a soft focus lens, you might as well dump $40 on a good photo book.
Yeah, I love that. You're gonna spend $500 for a lens that comes inherently soft.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
so
Cool.
all three.
It's
I
not
mean,
that expensive.
yeah, all
66
three for
bucks.
under $200, and they're collectible. I mean, they're only going to go up in price. 'Cause I also collect signed monographs and things. But it's fantastic if you're looking for inspiration to design your book. It's great.
Very cool. Awesome. That's a good pick. Very cool. All right, Derek Story. What about you? What is your pick of the week?
I'm going to do a lens this week. Haven't done a lens for a while.
A
Uh,
lens. The
now
Lensbaby.
no, this one is not soft. It's actually very sharp. It's for Micro Four Thirds, and it's the Panasonic the update to the 20 millimeter f 1.7. So it's
Oh,
the Panasonic 2, and I
okay.
finally got to test it. A street shooter's lens, boy, I tell you. So 20 millimeter on Micro Four Thirds, you sort of get the effective view of 40 millimeters. It's a very on Micro Four Thirds sensors. It's a natural feel. It just the shots feel like you're there. You know, it has that kind of feel to it. I like the way it feels. And they updated the body. The first round was a good sharp lens, but it was a plastic body. This one's a metal body, and it looks terrific. You can use it on both Olympus and Panasonic. And on Olympus, with sensor-based stabilization, it becomes a stabilized lens because it doesn't have optical
Oh, right.
stabilization. But on Panasonic, it's so fast that probably you'll be okay anyway. I shoot it at f1.7 90% of the time, just cause I like
Because I
to.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can. And it's very shallow, so it's literally a pancake lens, and it doesn't bother people. This is the thing I noticed. I put it on a little small OMD,
Yep.
put that lens on, and they don't pay any attention to me at all. I'm just another guy with a tourist camera, and so it's been great for street shooting. Great lens, and it's less than the Lensbaby.
What is this, an anti-Lensbaby? I'm going to get that Lensbaby
No,
just to spite you guys, and make you
no.
want it.
I'm telling you, you brought us on here as like the old curmudgeons and threw all this software and lenses at it. I'm like,
Hey, Derek, you see how the winds of change blow? See, 2 minutes ago, Joe was saying how young you looked. Now he's saying
Yeah,
you're one of the
yeah,
old guys with
yeah,
him.
yeah. It's always just a matter of time before the truth comes out.
You were young 15 minutes ago. Now it's all over.
I
It's
was.
downhill. Well, cool, awesome. I like that. So, Derek, what's your body of choice? Are you shooting the Olympus OMD EM5 II now?
I use that one, and I use the OM10. I still love the EM10.
Yeah. Oh, the EM10. Yeah.
Yeah, the OMD. Yeah,
You need to write them a letter.
yeah, alphabet. But I use them both, and the M5 Mark II is an amazing camera, but it's a little bit bigger, and we're all relative now, right? It's a little bit bigger, but it has the distortion correction in it, so you can fix keystoning. It has a 40 megapixel high res shot. It has all that good stuff. But the little one, the EM10, is great for street shooting because people just don't pay attention to you. They just, it's like you're invisible, and
Not
they
a real
really dig that.
photographer because you don't have a big DSLR with a white lens on it, right?
Well, and a lot of times I don't want to be a photographer, right? I don't want to be seen as a photographer. I just want to be a guy,
Right.
And but I love those two cameras.
Well,
I like them a lot.
Well, cool. Well, good. So my pick of the week is kind of, I guess this is also my sign-off thing too, but it is a little bit self-serving. My pick of the week is all about the gear, specifically because today marks the first episode where I am not on All About the Gear. It is our good friend Gordon Lang. So Gordon Lang has joined All About the Gear as the co-host with Doug Kay. And the first story, Derek, that you'll be happy to know,
Haha.
they reviewed the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II
Yeah.
as the first story that the Gordon and Doug team took on. So definitely check that out. As we record this, it's April 20th. This is was just released today. By the time you hear this episode, likely it will be Friday. So, but do check it out. Just head over to the easy way to get to all of the All About the Gear episodes is just go to thisweekinphoto.com/gear, and that will list out all the dozens of cameras that have been reviewed on that particular show. But I want to officially thank Mr. Gordon Lang to the TWiP network. He is, I guess, our newest host. Our newest host addition to our growing network of photography shows. So definitely check that out. All right, guys. Geez, we are at the end of another episode of This Week in Photo. How quickly the time goes. It's like almost an hour and 15 minutes we've been talking. Seems like we just sat down. So, Derek, where would you like people to go to keep up with your antics and your fun with your Olympus camera bodies?
Let's go to thedigitalstory.com, and everything runs through there, including the Nimble Photographer.
Very cool. And what do you have? What's happening in your world in the coming weeks? Any workshops and that kind of thing coming up?
Yeah, I'm doing a San Francisco street shooting this weekend, so I'm stoked. I'm really happy. I love that workshop. So.
That's a workshop that you're presenting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, we all stay in a hotel down, off Sutter, and we're over by Sutter and Powell. And we have an old San Francisco hotel we stay at, and we do our classes there, and then we go out. We're going to go out to Haight-Ashbury this year. We haven't done that before, and it's a wonderful weekend. I just dig it.
That's very cool. Congratulations. Always good to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you. Yeah.
My pleasure. Joe, J.M. Giordano, what about you? What's happening with you in the coming weeks and months?
Well, it's pretty exciting. In September, I'll be part of my second museum show in the year.
Nice.
My first one was from September to February at the Reginald Lewis Museum of African American History, where I was shooting. I'm still shooting a portrait series on civil rights and Black Power leaders.
Nice.
And that was I'll get 2 pieces. There were 4 pieces acquired by the museum for permanent collection, and 2 are being voted on for the Smithsonian's African American Museum. And then September, I was shortlisted for the National Portrait Gallery Prize. Mm-hmm. And of a Native American that I shot a portrait. It's on my website it's the very first portrait. So that's coming up in September. Continuing with the work here at the paper, I'm starting a series pretty soon on the city's most incarcerated neighborhood. Nice. Yeah, man, it's real. Great.
Wait, the city, so it's a piece on the city's most incarcerated neighborhood. What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's over 40% of this neighborhood has been or is incarcerated, whether African American, male or female. So it's in District 40. It's a Park Heights district in Baltimore. And so I'll be checking in with families there, and with the videographer Gabe Dinsmore. He's doing a video series on it. So I really just dedicated myself to doing social photography now.
So real photojournalism, where you're, when I think of photojournalism, I think it's people shining a light on issues and segments of the population that would otherwise go unnoticed or overlooked.
Actually, in this past year, last summer, I worked on this series called Camp 83 about the homeless living underneath this overpass. And because of the work that we did with the paper, city services came out and took care of them, which they wouldn't have if we hadn't shown a light, like you said, very eloquently, actually, shown a light on this homeless community. They would have just been abandoned. Mm-hmm. One guy had a gangrene on his foot, and they came out and took care of him. And once we got involved, of course, City Hall snapped too.
Of course, that's the power of the camera. Yeah. Yeah,
and that really sealed for me my decision not to do any fashion or advertising work, but to really focus on helping, kind of doing good with the camera. So
yeah, we'll have to have you back on because I really want to get a insider's perspective of just the career field of photojournalists, because we've talked about it a lot on TWiP and how newspapers around the country are shuttering their entire photojournalism staffs and
Right.
laying everybody off, in some cases giving inexperienced reporters iPhones and saying, okay, you cover the story. You're still a working pro at a Baltimore real newspaper, and it's still going. So I'm interested to hear how that's going for you and how it's
I'd love
been.
to do a show on just the modern. And I do, like, I'm speaking at a local college Wednesday about modern photojournalism. I mean, why it's important, how to get into it, what to do and what not to do. I'd love to come back and talk that. I mean,
okay, all right, well, we'll do it. You heard it here, TWiP Army. Joe has committed verbally, so that will stand up in a court of law.
And my website is jmgiordanophotography.com, and on Instagram, I am jmgiordanophoto.
Got it.
And my Instagram is about 98% all street stuff, photojournalism, things like that. So
very cool. And we'll definitely link to all those in the blog post for this episode.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of TWiP. I want to thank our wonderful sponsors, Animoto, FreshBooks, and Linda, for their support. Without them, this show would not be possible, believe me. And a huge thanks to them for their ongoing support and enthusiasm for This Week in Photo. And also, be sure to visit our website over at thisweekinphoto.com. My name is Frederick Van Johnson. With that, it is time to take that lens cap off.